Aloha and a wonderful good morning from Honolulu, Hawaii. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, and I'm joining you here from World Tourism Network in our beautiful city, what many think is the capital of the 50th state here in Hawaii. We're going to have a very special session today, and we're welcoming all our members that are participating live on Facebook, on eTober News, YouTube, and our many other channels that are involved in broadcasting this very special session to celebrate tour guides, specifically tour guides in Washington, D.C., and honor the inauguration for President-elect Biden. Now we're 2 days before the election. There is a lot to celebrate, for many of us at least, and we're going to make the case for the travel and tourism industry. And I'd like to specifically welcome and also thank you for your hard work in putting this together. This is Robin Richmond and specifically our friend Mari Carr Donato. She is a tour guide in Washington, D.C. And without further ado, I wanted to hand over the microphone to Mari Carr to guide us through this session. At the end, we're going to have an interactive part where you can include your contribution, your comments, your questions, and we're looking forward to it. For those of you that are currently watching us on eTober News or on any of our platforms and wanted to be live with us here at the Zoom event, you can still do this. Simply go to worldtourismevents.com, worldtourismevents.com. You find this listed and you can just still register and join us. Otherwise, if you listen to this after we're done, you can find us in the archive on livestream.travel, and you can participate indirectly anytime and also see a number of other upcoming events. If you're not yet a member of the World Tourism Network, it's time to join us. Just go to WTN.travel, World Tourism Network, WTN.travel. Mari Carr, the microphone and the floor is yours.
Yes, okay, thank you, Jürgen. But before me, I'd like to have Robin, our co-host, please introduce herself and then I will take over. Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Jürgen.
All right, yes, thank you, Jürgen. And this wouldn't have come about without Jürgen and actually doing a little matchmaking between Mari Carr and myself. I've been working with Jürgen on his Rebuilding Travel Initiative, which is I'm heading the special interest group of virtual travel experiences. And this came about as I'm the founder of a boutique travel company, and I do a lot of cultural immersion programs and work with community-based tourism. And in a lot of these countries and vulnerable communities, the pandemic has really hurt them. And so we're trying to think of something that could, help them earn some revenue. And we came up with the idea of, them being able to take the Zoom platform and share their culture and share their traditions and have almost like an intimate, group tour via Zoom. And while, I've been working on, in Rwanda and Sri Lanka and Tanzania and Peru and Bhutan, doing these programs, Jürgen, said, you should talk to Mari Carr because she is a tourist guide in DC, and she also trains tourist guides. And when he said DC, and we all kind of clicked and said, what's coming up is the inauguration. And now that, we can't have, tours or anything like that, why don't we take this opportunity to showcase tour guides, let them, see how they can take a site or, just a location and really make it come alive with explanations. And, so I'm going to go, and I really just wanted to give that little explanation behind, this program is part, that we're doing today is, part of this effort to showcase tour guides. And, we do have a GoFundMe, like kind of tip your tour guides, which I'll share with you guys at the end. But right now I will pass it on to Mari Carr.
Okay, hi everyone. Hello. It's nice to see everyone again in this platform with World Tourism Network. I'm Mary Cardonato and I'm a tourist guide here in Washington, D.C. So today is a big day. We have a panel composed of many tourist guides, local qualified tourist guides in our nation's capital. And before we begin, I'd like to introduce to you our moderator, who is Mr. Paul Costello. He and I have been working for a long, long time in designing and shaping stories for guides. So Paul, the microphone is yours. Unmute please, Paul.
Okay, unmute myself. Okay, thank you, Marika, and welcome everybody. Welcome. It's inauguration time. You can see I'm wearing the right colors, but I think we should all dress up. We should all dress up. I hope that you've got your tie ready. We could all dress up because they used to wear top hats. It used to be a very formal affair. So I just sort of thought, in honoring the history, see, I never learned how to tie a tie. My name is Paul Costello. Well, at least you give me the colors. There we are. See, you can see now. So I work with Marika. I'm part of Marika's faculty. I help her train tour guides, and I love tourist guides. I think they're the best thing about travel. And so today is honoring them as well as honoring a transfer of power with the president. We've got some tourist guides here that you're going to meet. But Brenda, would you wave? Brenda's going to be taking us on a guide. Kevin is going to be taking us on a guide. Can you wave to us, Kevin? And then we've got John. Where's John? John is another one of our experts. And Mistral. Mistral is, I think, is she here or is she on her way?
She's on her way.
She's on her way. So we're
here. I'm here.
Mistral, you're here. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. So what we're going to do, this is going to be like an as if tour. We want you to feel like as if you're at the inauguration. So remember, like I've been to about 4 or 5 inaugurations, and the Obama inauguration had almost 2 million people. And so like Washington, D.C. usually gets 20 million visitors a year. Can you imagine that like 2 million come in one day if there's 20 million in a year? So it's a big event. And this year, like, wow, it'll be the record lowest number at an inauguration. So I'm going to now, as I just let you know what's going on here, I'm going to, Marika wanted some music. So just tell me whether you can hear this music, a little background music. Can you hear some music? Okay, so we're going to have some fun. There may be some technical glitches because we're going all the way from Hawaii to Berlin to Germany to Australia, but it doesn't matter. We're going to have some fun, and you are going to be treated to some of the best tourist guides in the whole world. So let me just set it up by saying this is an historic day. The first transfer of power in 1801 was an historic day. And ever since, there's been this transition of a peaceful transfer of power. But it's very historic, it's very important for America, but it's also very important for the world. So I'm glad that you tuned in from wherever part of the world you are. But it's going to be different this year. It's going to be really, really different. And we have an expert guide to tell us how different it's going to be. Marika and Mistral and some of us have been down there this last week or two filming to say, if you were in Washington this week, I wonder what it would look like. So now I'm not sure whether we can show the video, but I'm going to pass it now to Marika. If we don't get the video working, Marika only lives about 10 minutes from the White House. She can describe what the scene is right now, just to first of all say it's going to be very different this year. Over to you, Marika.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And again, welcome to all come for our inauguration virtual tour today. Happy National Day of Service and Martin Luther King Day to all. This afternoon, our capital is in high alert. The US Capitol is near lockdown. Barricade fences wrap around huge sections of the city. There are so many security checkpoints scattered throughout. Armed national troops surrounding the streets in proximity to the White House and to the Capitol. 25,000 expected to be in place by Wednesday, January 20. It's a military force larger than 5 times more than in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, as the threat to the city remains high. So that is the feeling today in our neighborhood where I live, very close to the White House. And there is a lot of tension. I feel fear, but there is also hope. You know, I feel hope that some light will shine on us, you know, in our city, and that this will too shall pass, like the pandemic. It too shall pass, and, you know, we will live our happy lives again. So that is my wish for all of us today. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Marika, and stay safe down there. Don't start a fight. There's too many soldiers around, all right?
Yeah,
So
that's my background.
be peaceful, be peaceful. So I always think that if something's been going on since 1801, we've got a depth of history to be able to compare. But I think to set the context, we need to go back to how on earth did we get here? Usually you changed power by cutting off a king's head, or having a riot, or like we've seen something similar just recently. But that's not the way we do it here in the United States. But tell us, Brenda, tell us, how did this all start? What's the history? You've got some really interesting stories to share.
Unmute, Brenda, unmute. Brenda, unmute.
Hello, everyone. I am very glad to see you today because George Washington is my history crush. I love George Washington. And this all began with him. And, you know, of course, he was, there was no doubt who was going to be inaugurated. He won unanimously, not just once, twice. And when he went from his home in Mount Vernon to New York for the swearing in, you see that in the background here, he had a military escort, but it was honorary. No one worried they were going to hurt the hero of the revolution. When he got there, he wore his good American brown suit and his white silk stockings, and he's made history when he raised his hand and swore to uphold the Constitution. Ever since then, that's what we've been doing.
Wow. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I believe too, when he was riding from Mount Vernon to New York, where the first inauguration was, that a lot of the local militias just came along and rode along with him for part of the journey. Is that correct?
Yes, well, you know, he'd been working with the militia for 8 years in the Revolutionary War. He was the hero of the country, and everybody lauded him all along the way. There were dancing girls and flowers strewn, and it was a marvelous beginning.
Right. Well, I think President Biden, they were saying that he wanted to come down from Delaware by train rather than with a procession. But I do think on Wednesday, President Biden is going to go from the White House he's going to go from the Capitol steps to the White House with a military accompaniment. There is going to be some march that's sort of going to be vaguely familiar to what George Washington had in the very, very, very first inaugural. But you know what, again, when the sense of history, you can always think, well, you know, the headlines like to say, this has never happened before. This is unprecedented. I mean, protests at inauguration and crowds and security. It's like, that never happened before. Well, hang on a second. Let's transport ourselves back to a time when the country was falling apart. And I'm going to cross now to the east end of the Capitol building where President Lincoln, I think, is somewhere in the crowd about to be sworn in. John Grant, would you take over, please?
Certainly. Greetings, I'm John, coming from the nation's capital, March 4th, 1861, the day of Lincoln's first inauguration.
So can you share the right screen there, John?
John, we cannot see the image.
We're seeing some other people that probably don't belong to today. So yeah, get him out of there. Get that guy out of there. That the cartoon. All right,
Yes.
Go for it, John.
Yes, somebody, let's see. It's an atmosphere of tension and insurrection.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. the nation's capital is bracing for a new round of violence. This morning, President-elect Lincoln was greeted by the news that 7 southern states have seceded to protest the illegal and unfair election of a cursed abolitionist. The president had just escaped from an assassination attempt the week before. A Lincoln supporter describes the tense atmosphere in Washington today. The air is still thick with rumors of rebel plots to assassinate Mr. Lincoln or to capture or carry him off before he can take hold of government. The burden of protecting Mr. Lincoln has fallen to the decorated War of 1812 hero, Army General Winfield Scott. He's been tasked with what he called the most dangerous and critical mission of his entire military career. He's assembled all the forces at his disposal. Unfortunately, he only has 2,000 troops, the DC National Guard, and police dispersed in the crowd. There are sharpshooters all over the crowd, waiting as the president-elect makes his way to the inaugural stand. Policemen are interspersed in the crowd, and one has heard one of the crowd members say, "There goes that accursed abolitionist. He will not come back from the Capitol swearing in alive." As Lincoln made his inaugural speech, Horace Greeley, an abolitionist newspaperman sitting just behind him, was holding his breath and expected that an assassin's bullet would cut him down before he finished his speech. He did finish his speech, and as he departed back to the White House, Greeley later wrote, "Surely God was with us today."
Thank you, John.
1861.
1861. Thank you, John. You know, when it's an extraordinary story, really, an extraordinary story. And there were assassination attempts that were interrupted in Baltimore and Connecticut. I mean, we think we have it bad today in a way, and there's a lot of hope. But boy, the country has seen strife before, and that strife has broken out at an inauguration. I was watching last night, they were talking President Obama's first volume of his memoir. He talks about something that no one really knew at the time, that there was an active terrorist threat the night before President Obama was inaugurated in 2009. And if you watch the film of his inaugural speech, he has in one of his pockets another speech alternatively, which was written to say if there were instructions of how to evacuate 2 million people. Imagine how you'd evacuate 2 million people. But the inauguration is always that, you know, fear and hope and love, but it's one chance to bring the country together. So we're going to just take you quickly through. I'm not sure how much technology I can sort of capably use here, but let's just see if I can share my screen and show you basically what I want to just show you just quickly is the map of the day and what's going to happen. Of course, it is Martin Luther King Day. And in 2013, the inauguration was on the Martin Luther King Memorial Day. So it's like the convergence of these two things seems to remind America of some basic things about the American dream. So now let's just look and see if I can find this map somewhere here. There's the inauguration. I've got a map somewhere. There we are. There's a map now. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
You are. So look at my cursor and you'll see that. Just let me, because we're going to have an as if tour today. So this is what would normally happen, as in that a normal inauguration day, the president about to be inaugurated often will stay at Blair House, and that Blair House is here, just across the road from the president. I did read that President Biden is going to be, elect Biden is going to be staying there on Tuesday night. But anyway, the first act of the day is the president-elect goes in a limousine, is picked up there and goes to St. John's, which is here, the church. The day begins with prayer. And we pray for God's blessing on a new president. Then the president-elect and the first lady and family go to the White House. And there they stop and they come up and they give gifts and give gifts to the outgoing president, and they have a cup of tea or a chat. Then they get into their limousine, the two of them and the families, and they travel up to the Capitol building here. And that's when the inaugural ceremony and will happen with prayers and song and blessings and the national anthem, and then the inaugural speech after the president and the vice president are sworn in. Then the president-elect, the president is now president at 12 o'clock exactly, the Constitution says. Even if it's later or earlier, at 12 o'clock, there is a handover of the constitutional power, and President Biden is commander-in-chief. Then the new president sees the old president and first lady out to this East Wing, and there, which is the site where Lincoln, you saw John tell us about the Lincoln inaugural, that's where it happened. That's where the president outgoing gets on a helicopter and flies off to home, and then the new president goes into the Capitol building for a luncheon with the Congress, then gets into a limousine and starts his part of the parade. And you can see the parade route going down towards the White House. That's the president goes first. Then when the president is established in the viewing platform here, then the parade starts. And it goes on for hours and hours and hours. And we're going to have a special feature about that. The parade goes down past the White House. Then that ends the day's events. Then in the evening, we have the inaugural balls. We're going to talk about that. And then the day ends, everyone exhausted, but everyone very, very happy. So that shows you that, you know, St. John's, the White House, the Capitol, the front of the Capitol, the back of the Capitol, and the middle of the Capitol, then the cars and the parades down. The president parades down and often gets out and walks. Then the parade starts and the marching bands and everybody. Then, and the president is viewing that from the viewing platform that's been especially built, and then the inaugural ball. So that gives you an overall sense of the day. All right. So when we're gonna sort of stop off on that journey now, and let's just see, we've gone from Blair House and we're going to go to St. John's. So let me just show you, see if this works. I hope it does. We're going to just show you the president. This is, let's just see. We're going to go, no, it's not that one. It's going to be, let's see if I got the right one. No, let's see. I've got it here somewhere. Just give me a second. Where did I find it? No. Well, I'm going to, it seems to have got a little bit lost in my pictures. Let me just see. No, let me just finish that and I'll just tell you about it. That religion is a big part of, oh, there we are. So like, I don't know whether you can see this, but there's the motorcade arriving at St. John's, Obama's inauguration, I believe, and, arriving at the church. So this is traditional. There's a few in that church. There's even a few in that church. There's St. John's. There's St. John's, and that St. John's was famous for another picture, which was this picture, if you remember. So this is the same church, St. John's Parish Church, which is the White House's church. So just a little detail about that, which I find fascinating, is the president usually signs his inaugural oath on a Bible. And some will like to use Washington's Bible, and some will like to use Lincoln's Bible. And sometimes, I think at one time in the terrible tragedy, if some of us are old enough to remember, in the terrible tragedy of the John F. Kennedy's assassination, we had the scene where, let me just see if I can find it. We had the scene of a president on Air Force One being sworn in by a lady judge, Judge Hughes, and they couldn't find a Bible. They couldn't find a Bible to swear on. But remember that Kennedys were Catholics, so they'd been to Sunday Mass that Sunday, and the only thing they could find was the Sunday Missal. So there's a famous picture, I had it queued up, but I can't. There's a Sunday Missal where the president signs the inauguration, the oath, on a Sunday, Catholic Sunday Missal, not a Bible at all. So we've left St. John's now, and now we're going to go around to the White House. and our limousines are going to pull up outside, and this is a sort of a ceremonial greeting, goodbye, hello, welcome, goodbye. And it has certain traditions about sharing gifts, traditions of leaving a letter in the top drawer of the Resolute desk. So I'm going to push across now to Marika. Marika wants to share a little bit about some of the great stories about that.
Robin, can you put my gift exchange with Mrs. Obama? And it is a tradition that the incoming First Lady presents a gift to the outgoing First Lady. So this happened in 2017 when Mrs. Trump presented Mrs. Obama with a Tiffany and Company blue gift box tied in white satin ribbon. And Mrs. Obama said, "You brought a gift," she exclaimed. And then, in a sign of an awkward gaps that come with the transition of the White House, she awkwardly looked around in vain for an aide to hand it off while they posed for cameras. And then finally, President Obama took the box and walked it inside, saying gamely, "I'll take care of the protocol here." So that was a moment I will never forget. You know, it is such a cute story that they didn't know to whom to give that gift to pass on the gift. And do you know what was inside the box? Does anybody know? Tell me, raise your hand if you know what was inside the Tiffany box. Raise your hand. Yes, Brenda. What was it? Unmute, Brenda, please. And a what?
A photo frame. A silver frame.
It's a Tiffany frame. That was the mystery surprise. Nobody knew what was inside that box.
And what about the letters, Marika? What's this thing about the letters that are left for the incoming?
Yeah, so it is also a tradition that presidents leave letters. I think we have some background noise. The president, when I arrived in Washington, my president was President Ronald Reagan. And in 1989, as he was leaving his term, he wrote a letter to the incoming president, George H. Bush. And Robin, if you can show a copy of the letter, it says, "Don't let the turkeys get you down." Dear George, you'll have moments when you want to use these particular stationaries. Well, go to it. George, I treasure the memories we share and wish you all the very best. You'll be in my prayers. God bless you and Barbara. I'll miss our Thursday lunches. Ron. And if you look at the elephant surrounded by turkeys, I thought that's so funny. That's really something that had so much humor in these presidential letters. So that's my story, Paul.
Thank you, Marika. Thank you so much. There are some wonderful. Actually, let me just share my screen a little bit. I'll just show you the story happening as Marika is saying. Here it is. Here it is. Actually, it's not. This is the inauguration before. This is Obama, Bush to Obama, and you see the tradition of the Michelle's got a gift as well. So this is sort of a ritual, but it hasn't always worked quite out that way. It's not going to work out that way on Wednesday. And sometimes in past history, it hasn't quite worked out that way. There's a famous story that when these two people were sharing, when it was Truman and Eisenhower, and the little underneath it says, you know, that the story says that Eisenhower refused to enter the White House on inaugural morning to have tea with Truman, but they did ride up together. They did ride up to the Capitol together. So there's an exchange of gifts, and it's, you know, supposed to be friendly. It's supposed to be a sign that, you know, the old and the new. And in fact, Bush and Obama in later years become very good friends, and so did Bush and Clinton. So I guess there's hope. And one day maybe we'll see Trump and Obama in some sort of relief committee for starving children in the world. There's always hope. But then they come out of the White House, and they're getting into the limousine now to go up to the Capitol. And like, here we are. Here's a little sample of it. They're going to ride up together. Okay. So there's great stories of, I see some presidents have chit chatter during the limousine ride. Some of them are just stone cold silent. I still remember, well, I went to the inauguration of Clinton, and they told the story that Clinton was reading his Bible. I think Billy Graham was going to give it the prayer. And he opened up Billy Graham said, go to this piece of scripture. And it was like, be a bridge builder, stand in the breach. And Clinton was reading this in the limousine as he heads up to the Capitol. So now we're going to head to the Capitol building itself. But the Capitol is looking super duper. It's looking very special. It's not looking its usual self. And there's some flags and buntings and stuff. So America, tell us a little bit about, I see 5 flags behind you. What's going on? Can you tell me what that's about?
Okay, so if you can see my background, does everybody see my flags there behind? So that is the 5 bunting flags, they call it. The middle flag, okay, so everybody sees the middle flag, the 3rd flag here, okay? That represents the flag of the United States. On either side of that, right and left, is the flag of the current state of the president-elect at the time that state was admitted to the Union. And the outer flags are the original flag of the 13 states. That is the significance of those 5 bunting flags.
Wow, wow. And, you know, it is interesting for those of us who are watching the news the last 2 weeks, you know, that scene 2 weeks ago was a very, very different scene. But I mean, on Wednesday, these places, you know, it's a limited inauguration, but these places will be restored to the role and the function that they were meant to play. So when it comes to the inauguration, there's usually a chairman or chairwoman of the inauguration committee, usually is the chairwoman who runs it. And it usually is, there's a prayer, an introduction and a prayer and a song. And then the swearing in, the Chief Justice, the swearing in of the Vice President, often done by the Speaker of the House, then the swearing in of the President, the inaugural address, and then there's a benediction, another prayer or a song, and then the National Anthem. So that's the kind of sequence. But there's a lot of rich history here. So I'm going to push on that, you know. There's a lot to talk about, but Brenda has especially prepared some of her favorite stories about what happens at the inauguration around the songs and the prayers and the fashion.
Unmute, Brenda, unmute. Brenda.
Yeah. Hello.
There you are.
How do you like my hat? This is what Aretha Franklin wore. And she sang "My Country 'Tis of Thee" to President Obama at his inauguration. And she did well. Of course, Aretha did well, but it was so cold that she didn't do her best. But this hat was so good that after she died a few years ago, President Obama asked her survivors, asked her estate, could he please have that hat for his keepsake? So wow. Aretha, thank you. She sang "My Country 'Tis of Thee." Traditionally, there's a lot of opera singing going on. Now, another thing that happens is poetry. Now, it wasn't a thing until JFK asked Robert Frost to write a poem. He wrote a poem. He was an old man. He got up there, he was getting ready to read it. The onion skin paper in 1961 was smacked by the sunshine. He couldn't read it. So what did Robert Frost do? He recited a poem that he had written 20 years earlier.
Wow.
Now, this is someone that Maya Angelou is somebody that you will remember. She was asked by Clinton to write a poem, and she wrote the most remarkable poem. It starts out talking about mastodons and dinosaurs. And at the end of it, she has created this web of unity for the earth and for the American people. And she ends it like this. Here on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes and into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Now, of course, before there were poets, there were really well spoken presidents. And the best inauguration speech ever, I think, is Lincoln's second inaugural, where he says we have to have malice toward none, charity for all. But in the middle of that, he also says this bit of poetry that he made up. Fondly do we hope, fervently do we pray, that this mighty scourge of war may speedily pass away.
Wonderful. I show that to my international students at the Lincoln Memorial, and I always point that out, that it is, that Lincoln's oratory is just amazing. I think the other really great inaugural address was, I think, Washington's second address, and it was 135 words long. Imagine an inaugural address that's 135 words long. So at the end of the inauguration swearing in, if the Chief Justice gets it right, Obama and Chief Justice Roberts kind of mixed up their cues, but at the end there's the national anthem, and it's been sung by very famous people, and it's going to be sung by someone very famous today. Mistral, tell us about that.
Unmute, Mistral, unmute.
Sure. So, sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Greetings. So fact that not all presidents had the famous singers in their inauguration. For a long time, military bands generally played the ceremony. All start with Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had very interest in recruiting big names. So here's a highlights of some famous that I want to share with you. Here we see to Contralto Marian Anderson in John F. Kennedy 1961 ceremony. We have here in 1977 Cantor Isaac Goodfriend, a Holocaust survivor, in Jimmy Carter inauguration. So here we have Santita Jackson at Bill Clinton inauguration 1997. Of course, Beyonce, who performed at the platform for Obama, Jackie Evancho, the Donald Trump inauguration, and now this year we have Lady Gaga at Joe Biden inauguration this 2021. As we can see this year, no singer and entertainer who perform and talk about the issues of love, togetherness, and freedom, and fighting oppression, they want to represent that message. So that's a beautiful thing, because they are the voice of change, the voice of America. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Mistral. Thank you, Mistral. So let's revisit some quick moments here. So, you know, the swearing in is honoring. Right.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator?
I am.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
that I will execute
faithfully, the office of President
of the United States faithfully.
So we,
to the best of my.
So yeah, they had to go back. They had to go back to the White House the next morning and do it again because they slipped up on a word. They slipped up on a word. So there's the inaugural speech that goes on, and then the crowning moment is the singing of the national anthem. Mr. Earl, how are your tonsils? Do you want to treat us to the famous people and you give us a rendition for our inauguration?
Sure, indeed, I would love to. So here is a piece. For the ramparts we watch, we're so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rattler, the bombards in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does the Star-Spangled Banners yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Bravo, Mistral, bravo.
Mistral.
Bravo, bravo.
Wow. So let's just thank you, Mistral. That is so beautiful. I'm not sure who's going to sing it on Wednesday, but you sure think it's going to be sung with great pride. And great
Lady Gaga.
Who's going to be singing it?
Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga. I was going to be singing it on Wednesday. Yeah, wow, that's going to be worth seeing. So now let's keep rolling along because the next thing is an inaugural speech. So here's an oldie but a goodie.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Now that might be appropriate for today too. And then this is another swearing in that I told you about where it's Judge Hughes swearing in President Johnson on Air Force One, and his hand is on a Sunday missal, not on a Bible at all. And then this is the famous one that I'm sure everyone...
Fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
So, and then it's time for the president to say goodbye to each other. And this is President Obama seeing off President Bush as they go to the Marine One and go to Marine One, and the Bushes fly off to their next, back to Texas, really. Actually, in that scene, someone was sort of lip reading what President Bush said to Laura as they got into Marine One, the big helicopter, and Bush is saying to Laura, "Come on, Laura, let's go home." Just a lovely little moment of transition of power. So now, inside we go and have the luncheon, and it's kind of funny because for all the there's a luncheon
official until there's a photo of it.
So there we are.
Mr. President, now it's official. I present to you the photograph of your inauguration.
There we are. See, I always think it's kind of like Congress and the president begin in a honeymoon. So there's Chuck Schumer, head of the Democratic Senate, minority leader, toasting to President Trump. I mean, like, isn't that amazing? It's a honeymoon. Like, Congress and president begin by having lunch together, and then it goes downhill from there, maybe. I don't know. But then it's the parade time. It's parade time, and the new president goes in for lunch, then comes out and gets in the limousines and goes on the parade route down Pennsylvania Avenue to get in position. And he'll walk and people will cheer, and he'll get to the White House, and then he'll go onto the viewing stand and watch the parade pass by. So we have our own expert here who's going to take us on that journey. Kevin, welcome to our show and take us away.
Okay, let's see what we can do here. the parade starts from the east front of the Capitol after the luncheon. Just for reference, the speech takes place on the west front looking down the mall. They go on to the other side, the east front, where the inaugurations used to take place. That's where the ex-president then leaves. And then they actually have a small military parade. The existing presidents will review, if they pass in review. And then let's see if this works here. Can you see the Trumps getting into the parade there, into the car?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so that's the Trumps getting into what they refer to as the Beast, the presidential limo. And then the trip goes, they actually leave, they depart the east front of the White House, go out the north side of the Capitol, turn left onto Constitution Avenue. It's about 1.5 miles that they're gonna go between the Capitol and the White House. And they go down along and you have there are several beasts there, accompanied by Secret Service agents, keeping an eye on things. It's a little bit what the head of it looks like from the back, heading out on Constitution Avenue toward the White House, looking back toward the White House. It's kind of two views of the same thing. And all along that path, about 1.5 miles, there are people lining the streets. So they have security. They've got stanchions up there. There's security all the way along. They put up grandstands. Sometimes people just sit on the curb. There's some years, going through all the pictures, some years there's a little less security. Some years there's a lot. There's more and more every year. But as they turn onto Pennsylvania, one of the first things they encounter here is the Canadian Embassy. So this is a view of the staff of the Canadian Embassy with some Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The man right here with the white hat, the white hair is the Canadian ambassador, and they're standing on the steps of the Canadian Embassy on Pennsylvania Avenue. Actually, according to international law, they are in Canada now. And if you come visit Washington, you can go stand on these steps, and you can be in Canada too. But the mounted police giving the salute on Pennsylvania Avenue as saluting to the president. Looking back, moving a little bit ahead and looking back, you see the parade coming along. The two buildings on the left, the one on the nearest us is just an office building. The one the furthest along was the museum about the news industry that unfortunately just closed. But you'll notice you'll see on the right-hand side, you'll see people on the street and in the grandstands, and on the left-hand side, they're on the roofs of the buildings. The Secret Security who are in charge, the Secret Service who are in charge of security just loves this, but there's not much they can do. So they do have police, all the local police organizations help out. And there are people on those stands and on those roofs and in those stands, same view from a slightly different spot. And here's some people again, on the roofs of the office buildings watching the parade. Some get to go sit inside. My very own sister-in-law is a lawyer, has an office on Pennsylvania Avenue, and stood in the window and watched the Obama parade with my niece and nephew. And of course, when I called her, said, "Oh no, I don't have any pictures, so I can't share that." There's a tradition started by this man, President Carter, of walking. Before then, they would ride in the cars, or they would ride in convertibles, or now that they're riding in secure cars, now they get out. Carter, in order to make a statement, because he was going to be a different kind of guy, and in the post-Nixon era, he walked the entire way, walking along here. That's him and his wife and Amy, who's about 11 there, I believe. And here they are again walking along. Amy was 11 or so and got cold and went and sat in the car and rode. I'm not going to walk anymore. The Reagans, the Bushes, the Obamas. I think this is the second term. Chelsea's a little older. The Bushes, the second Bushes, and the Obamas. You'll notice that the Obama girls aren't with them. They were in evidently in the Beast, learning how to make the stereo play really loud. And here we have the Trumps, and you'll notice Barron there, who is probably about a foot taller today. But they do all get out and walk along at some point. When they get to the White House, there is a reviewing stand. It was a review stand in 1977 when Jimmy Carter was elected. He was, of course, a peanut farmer in the state of Georgia, had a peanut float or a peanut balloon in the parade. Yeah, the parade starts and they actually watch the rest of the parade, which can go on for a couple of hours. This is the 1989 Bush parade. Then this is the, you'll see the Obamas there. That's the reviewing stands from which the Obamas watched the parade. Wow. So it's nice and warm, nice and toasty. We see George H.W. Bush and his wife there. Once they've gotten there, they get into the reviewing stand. The Malia and Sasha Obama enjoyed their little trip, watching it. They really enjoyed watching the parade. That was for them. But it kind of got old after a while. What they did after this, interestingly enough, is they went into the White House, and the president and Mrs. Obama went to the balls, and they had the staff of the White House had arranged a scavenger hunt in the White House for the girls. And Chelsea Clinton came back and helped out. And one of the last things they found, they went into a room and there was the
Jonas Brothers.
Oh, the Jonas Brothers. So yes, that's where we see.
Great.
And there's the Trumps at theirs. And I don't know if they had a scavenger hunt for Eric or not, but this is the end of the parade. They watched from the reviewing stand and then get ready to go to the balls. Back to you.
Fantastic, Kevin. Fantastic. So I'm just looking at the time. It's 2:55. So we're coming into the final. We're condensing 24 hours into 1 hour. That's a pretty good deal for these tourist guides to do that. But we've got some, we can just move this along a little bit because we're going to wrap up our day. As you say, there's one scene, and then there's another scene of, that's FDR, who didn't walk because he had polio, but he was in the car. And then I think that's President Trump walking. And then this just show you the weather sometimes is really, really bad. Just look at this. Look at this.
Mrs. Kennedy head for the specially constructed stand. We're joined by Vice President and Mrs. Johnson. They will review the inaugural parade.
So you can see that, just briefly, John, sometimes the weather really gets bad in an inaugural parade, an inaugural thing. Just quickly, in 30 seconds, just tell us some of the highlights of some of the weather.
Unmute, John, unmute.
Well, I did have a picture of Washington uncleared for Kennedy's inauguration.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, this was the night before inauguration, Kennedy's inauguration. They were calling for a light dusting. They got a foot. It left about thousands of cars stranded, and the streets were all covered. In fact, the press was saying the inauguration might have to be canceled, at least the parade. Well, overnight, the National Guard, the Army Combat Engineers, the DC Sanitation Department, and 1,700 Boy Scouts worked night and day with shovels and plows and cleared the way.
Wow.
What could have been a disaster turned out to be one of the best days in Kennedy's administration.
Wow. So I think President Reagan's inauguration was so cold that they had it inside. And some of them have had up to almost 10. I think William Taft in 1909 had almost 10 inches of snow. Imagine how that would put a dampen on things. So listen, we're rolling on for the day. Oops. John, who's sharing the screen? Somebody sharing the screen? Okay, that's great. So now we're going to move on to the really, really fascinating finale of the day, which is the inaugural balls. And Brenda, why don't you come in here, tell us where they started, and you've got some really, really good stories that you love to tell, and then I'm going to ask Mistral to do the same. Over to you, Brenda.
All right. Well, I think I'll take a piece of the fashion that happens at the balls. And you see here in the center, there's a blue dress. That is Rosalind Carter. Rosalind Carter did not get a new dress for her husband's inaugural ball. She recycled the dress she wore when he was inaugurated as the governor. And that was her nod to the fact that America was having some economic problems and that Jimmy was going to buckle down and be economically tight. Of course, the next president was a former movie star. You can see Nancy Reagan there in her glitter. She spent a lot of money. Now look at all the other lovely first ladies there. You might want to especially remember these two, though. This is, of course, Obama and Michelle. And in his new memoir, he talked about this. He called Michelle a chocolate vision in that chiffon dress. That dress was created by a man named Jason Wu, who did not know that he was going to be a superstar until he saw it on TV. It's fluffy. He calls it hope, and it looked lovely then. If you look at it in the Smithsonian now, I'm sorry, Michelle, but it kind of looks like a damp shower curtain. Now, if you look, you can see Melania. Melania helped design her own dress. She said she didn't really know she needed a dress. I think she thought her husband was not going to win. And after the election made him president, she called up an old friend of hers who was a costume designer from her days when she was a model and said, I want something flowing with a sash. And this beautiful off-the-shoulder dress is what was the result.
Wow, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. So, Mistral, what you love inaugural balls, and tell us what you love about them. What stories you share?
Sure, yes, I do love them. And reporting from here, Washington, D.C., as you know, unfortunately, this year, we won't have an inaugural ball, but we may have a virtual experience, how it will be. That's a big question. No two inaugurations are the same. So here it's a clip that I want to share, and these are highlights and the sense of, they will keep the sense of traditions, but it also an innovation that we see through the inaugurations. So here we see George Washington in the 1789. It's a beautiful drawing that projects the sense of how must look like the inauguration. We didn't have that word yet, the inaugural ball, but indeed he celebrated a week after of his inauguration with 300. But the original inaugural ball was formally established with President James Madison and First Lady Dolly Madison. And she organized, she charged $4. Back in the days, it was very expensive, $4 per guest. So they hold about 400. This is the Mr. Hotel, Long Hotel. Here we have the Lincoln Inaugural Ball, 1861. This is the patent oven. Look at the decoration on the side of the building. It's a beautiful, this is the invitation, the list of the guests of Lincoln's, and the attendees were about 4,000. Frank Sinatra, Jackie Kennedy, and here we see a beautiful moment. And who can forget when Bill Clinton played the sax? 1993. Wow. So as if evolving, we see famous participations of, the singers, the songs at the inauguration of inaugural ball of Barack Obama. There won't be a ball gown. That's a big news this year. Should the female Vice President Kamala Harris start a new collection of swearing in fashion to give it to the Smithsonians? Do we care? So of course, here we see for sure, this is a turning point, an opportunity to rethink the inaugurations and the future scale that incorporating technology to engage more Americans in a particular experience, in a participative experience, not just a viewer. So definitely this going to transform for future generations to come. Reporting, Mistrela Nampa, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Listen, cut back to us if anything interesting happens in the non-ball that didn't happen, but we're imagining so vividly that it must happen, because I'm about to dress up now. I'm going to the ball, even though there isn't a ball, I'm going to go to the ball. And let me just show you this, one of my treasures. This is, can you see what's on there? The White House. And this is, I hope I'm not going to get in. I hope they let me in. This is from the President Reagan's White House. And it's actually the Christmas party that it may be in my memory I didn't attend, but I dreamed that I did. But anyway, I'm going to the ball. And actually, I hope, I love this scene. Let me just quickly show you 2 seconds of this, because I think this is, I don't know, maybe what president can do this? Wow, I mean,
yeah, and imagine, Paul, that you are dressed perfectly, because there is a huge line to get into this event.
Absolutely.
Yes, and so now I'm pretty sure it won't be missed, those lines in this weather.
So just before we're coming to the close now, we're coming to sort of conclude and allow you to sort of do reaction. But there's one other quick story I've got to share with you. Like, again, history doesn't repeat itself, but I remember I wasn't old enough. Maybe, John, you weren't old enough too, but there's a story about a ball that went terribly wrong, and it was at the White House. And I believe there were 30,000 people at it, almost as many people at the ball as there are soldiers in Washington this week. Can you just quickly, 30 seconds, whose party was it and what went wrong?
Yes, this was for Andrew Jackson, 1829. He was the first president elected from the Western frontier, and he invited all of his fellow frontiersmen to come celebrate in Washington. Actually, that's another. If I could have the Jackson White House picture.
That's anyhow, party that went wrong.
Yes, well, anyhow.
Behind me.
Well, anyhow, it turns out that they were all invited. They followed the parade, and they were all invited to the White House reception, which was not prepared to receive half the population of DC. So the guests proceeded to help themselves to all of the, actually it will be, check before that. Actually, the happy crowd proceeded to consume all the food and beverages and ransack the White House for any souvenirs they could get. President Jackson was spirited out the back window while his guards distracted the crowd with a keg of open whiskey.
Oh.
Yes, and Jackson went across to another tavern in Alexandria where he celebrated his inauguration.
There it is.
Peace. Now there's what you call an ominous crowd gathering before the White House.
Yeah, wow.
After that, they changed the reception protocol. No more receptions as a centerpiece for the festivities.
Wow. You know what? It's like when we saw the scene 2 weeks ago and they said this is unprecedented. It's the last time this has happened like an invasion since 1814 when the British burnt down the Capitol and the White House. But then history reminds us that, in fact, a local crowd of Americans who were just partying went in and wrecked the White House back then in Andrew Jackson's time. I'm always looking at Antique Roadshow, because I just think there's so many families in America that have got antiques from Andrew Jackson's White House. And I bet you they're not game to show it because they'll realize that their great-great-great-grandparents might have been at that party that went terribly, got out of control. So listen, as we conclude then, I just think, John, Kevin told the story really well. And I love it's a story that there's kids and there's dogs. There's kids stories of the inauguration, and there's dog stories, just for a little lighter note as we conclude. So I just love that story that that this is, as Kevin said, Michelle Obama and the staff decided they'd have a treasure hunt for the two girls to get to know the White House, right? And they were leading through the rooms and the rooms and the rooms, and they were having fun. I think one was 4, one was 7. So they're kids in a White House. Imagine that. Imagine being in the White House. And then, as Kevin said, the last surprise was that they went into the East Room, and there were the Jonas Brothers. Here, let me show you. Let me hang on. Can somebody share this? Someone's sharing the screen, and I need to share the screen. Okay, all right, that's good. Let me just show you that. This is, there they are, the Jonas Brothers. And you can imagine the night before they'd been to a big kids inauguration concert. The Obamas initiated a kids inauguration. So that was a real special moment. I think Ronald Reagan's daughter, Lucy, was exploring the fireplaces in the White House, and she almost set the place on fire. They had to come in there and put out the fire because she didn't know exactly what she was doing. While everyone else has partying, she's trying to keep warm by opening up the fireplace in the many fireplaces in the White House. And the great story about Tad Lincoln. One day, Tad Lincoln he rang all the bells in the White House together. I mean, he was a he is a crazy kid, a fun kind of kid. But there's one other thing that the Biden inauguration will be remembered for as unprecedented. There is something unprecedented. And I'm going to show it to you now. I wonder if anyone guesses. President Biden already did it last night, but I don't think it's ever been done in a White House inauguration before. Does anyone guess what it is? I'm going to share the screen, see if you can, this is what it is. It's a new term now in the language. It's a new term in the language, and it's called
the dog.
It's the dog inauguration.
Yeah.
There.
Major, his name, the dog.
The dog is being inaugurated. It was inaugurated on Sunday night. It's the first sheltered dog that's ever been in a White House. And so there's an dog. How do you say it, Marika?
In dog we trust?
No. Well, inauguration, not other inauguration. So look, I tell you, let me finish up then. It's, what time is it? It's 3:10, so it's 70 minutes. We've given you this tour. We hope you really enjoy it, and we hope that the tourist guides have proven to you that they're indispensable. They're wonderful people. They're fun. They're knowledgeable. They love their history. Next time you come to Washington, when things clear up a little bit, please, we want to show you our city. We want to relive this. But a couple of years ago, I wrote a book called The Presidential Plot. And the chapter ends, let me just read from that just briefly. But after the president and the first lady in all their finery head out in the evening to attend as many of the inaugural balls as they can. The first lady's gown will draw much attention, and the sight of the first couple on the dance floor will thrill the onlookers, proud to see such a fetching couple as their first family. And so the day of triumph ends appropriately in an evening of pomp and splendor as the president starts to get used to hearing "Hail to the Chief" as his entrance antiphon for every formal occasion from then on. But after the ball is over, the limousine might not become a pumpkin and the horses might not become mice, but our new head of state returns to a quiet White House, just waking to the dawn of a cold winter morning as the sun comes up and the fairy tale ends. His first working day begins in the Oval Office with security briefings and the urgency of filling the vacancies of what amounts in size and budget to 10 multinationals, finding CEOs and managers and secretaries and assistant secretaries for each of them, and some 3,000 other political appointments that are essential if the government is to keep working again under his leadership. There are judges to appoint, ambassadors to dispatch, friends and donors to reward for their efforts to get him elected. And for the thousands of Americans in uniform, he is the new commander-in-chief and who has pledged to keep them safe and get them home. Whatever the glamour of winning the highest office of the land, it is soon a distant memory as the real work begins. And so I just want to sort of say, it's a beautiful day on Wednesday. It's a fantastic day. We celebrate, even if restricted, even if there's 20,000 National Guard there, we kind of say, this is America. This is the best of America. We start again. America starts again. I think that's the definition of America. America's definition is it's the nature that starts again, a new beginning. But then on Thursday, you better believe it, Senate, House, everything starts, and we got to pray for this guy. We really got to pray for this guy. We party on Wednesday and pray on Thursday because he's got a big job ahead of him. So listen, that completes our segment. I'm going to hand it back to Robin, but I want to thank you for your attention and thank you for being on our tour, As If tour. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed delivering it to you. And back to you, Robin, at CNN headquarters.
Well, thank you so much. And I have to say, you guys, I mean, all the information and the stories and, everything that you added just really brings all that back to life. And I know from now on, when I listen to, you know, or watch even the inauguration, I'll know like little bits and pieces from the past. And, you know, and again, that's what, you know, tourist guides do, is they really add the stories and the flavor to, you know, to really a location, an event, or anything. And it's all, you know, as I said before, it's all part of this effort, you know, particularly during the pandemic, for, you know, tourist guides who, you know, pretty much, you know, have the, you know, have their, like on a, you know, it's on a hold, you know, their work. And so I would like to say also to people who are here, you know, if anyone, you know, because we are doing this international virtual travel, if anyone has, you know, an idea to share to be on like the roster for the series, you know, please let me know. But we also have, and I will put it into the chat right now, we have, I set up a GoFundMe for if you guys want to tip our tour guides tonight, or today, and a portion of that is also going to go to helping, you know, tour guides around the world, you know, get their, you know, their internet and their Zoom equipment as well. So we'd appreciate that, and we, you know, really enjoyed doing this for you, and I enjoyed learning everything, and hopefully this will be a more you know, who knows, maybe virtual will be, you know, a hybrid. I don't want to, you know, take away, but, you know, because there's something is very special about the live, but maybe the virtual and the live can, you know, be something for places that we can't go to. So thank all of you for doing an amazing job, and Jürgen for giving us this platform and for really helping us with, you know, this rebuilding travel idea.
Robin, if people wanted to tip, the tradition of tipping the tourist guides at the end of a tour, and I'm just the chair, it's not me, it's the
yeah.
tour.
Well, that's what I just sent in the thing. It's a GoFundMe link that I just sent, and it's the one that says "From me to everyone," the gf.me. If you guys see that one in the chat, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you to all the guides who participated, and to all the audience. You've been wonderful. There's so many, you know, almost 100 were on the call today. So does anybody have any questions? David, anybody want to speak up right now, please, to ask about Wednesday, if you want to know what we're going to do? Oh, Dr. Talab Rifai just joined the call. Welcome, Dr. Rifai from Madrid. Let's give him a big hand, everybody. Former UNWTO.
I think he's still connecting.
That's so nice. That's so beautiful. But does anybody have any questions about, you know, our city in Washington, and what you want to know about Wednesday's events? Everything, of course, is on the news, but we only know what we know, you know. So.
Well, congratulations to everyone in DC and to everybody in America for the new president and the new era of democracy. Everybody looks at America as the mother of democracy, and we hope, we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Michael Zufolo, right?
Thank you.
I don't know who's
goodbye.
Michael.
Thank you for everything from rural Berkshire in England.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Michael. We'll see you on hopefully the other WTN broadcast coming up soon.
Yes,
you will.
I'm a New York City tour guide with the Tour Guides Association. So okay. I really enjoyed your program. I'd like to hear more of it, or if you would mind, add me to your mailing list. I'd like to, you know, join in.
Sure.
Yeah, and you guys, may I also just come in for a minute? Marika and Robin and Paul and Brenda, Kevin, Mistral, John, everyone, thank you and mahalo, we say here in Hawaii, for this session. This was wonderful. You made America proud in just 1 hour, and this is amazing. And yes, everyone who's on this call, we have your email and we have your contact address. So we will send you also the GoFundMe page information. We'll send you a copy of this video, and you'll find it on livestream.travel anytime you want to. Anyone who wanted to say something or comment, you still have the chance. I see Basong is raising his hand, but let me just also recognize, and Marika did this already, Dr. Taleb Rifai, our co-host for many times, to say a few words. Taleb, you missed a wonderful session in the beginning, so we will send you the information, but thank you for joining.
Not at all. I'm very, very sorry. I got mistaken by the hour. It's 1 hour behind here in Spain.
You will see it, but I can tell you this was a wonderful session. We have
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
Talented tour guides.
With all the wonderful people that are there, of course. Thank you so much, Jürgen.
Yes,
I don't have much to say.
Yeah, and I know Taleb knows the importance of tour guides very well, and he has, I think, he's from Jordan, and Jordan is one of the countries you really also need a tour guide, like in Washington, D.C. I have to say, I've been to Washington a few times. I never had a tour guide. I thought I can do it all on my own. I was so wrong, so wrong. Yeah. I tell you, next time I go to Washington,
be our host.
Definitely will call.
We can host you.
I will be your personal tour guide to Washington, D.C.
Yes, please come. Everybody come. Everybody, you're welcome. Maybe in the summer of 2021, when the pandemic goes away, you come, we have a party. We know how to party. We're party people.
I know.
Just one story that I just wanted. We didn't get time, but John, you saw the picture. There was a picture of a lasso and a cowboy, and it looked like there was a whip going towards President Eisenhower in the viewing stand. So I just want to. That's one last little story that I'd never heard before. John, what the heck was going on in the inauguration parade at the end? Did President Eisenhower almost get lassoed or strangled or something?
Well, actually, the president was lassoed, but the lasso almost strangled former President Herbert Hoover, who was sitting next to him.
Oh my God.
Yes. Anyhow, the crowd was amused and surprised. He did coordinate this stunt with the Secret Service, and people wondered why he did it. Well, in his memoirs years later, he said he was actually allowed it because he was miffed that the inauguration committee wouldn't let him wear the 10-gallon hat that the cowboy offered him. They also wouldn't let him wear his favorite Homburg hat. They made him wear a silk hat because that was tradition. To which Ike said, well, if we have to be traditional, why don't I just wear a hat like this?
Yes.
Yes. That was the unconventional end to a very conventional otherwise inauguration.
Right. Just I want to thank everybody, and I just want to say we put some money on the bets of what the inauguration speech is going to be on Wednesday, but already I think we're hearing echoes. As we started at the beginning of our tour, Lincoln's first inaugural. So if you've heard President Biden say we must not be enemies, or that there's no red states and blue states, but we must not be enemies. That's Lincoln's first inaugural. And he goes on to say this, and I'm going to put some money on, we're going to hear echoes of this on Wednesday at President Biden's inauguration. He says this, though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. So if that's a message that I'm sure President Biden will be working, his speechwriters will be working on it. I'm so lucky to read that because one of the great places to visit in Washington, D.C. is the Library of Congress. And over many years of working in international programs in Ireland, South Africa, Israel, Palestine, it was my pleasure every year to go to the Library of Congress, rare manuscripts. So I've actually held that speech in my hand about a dozen times. And you'll see the edited notes that the mystic chords of memory and the better angels of our nature, it's a very worked up speech that Lincoln delivered in his first inaugural. In fact, his son lost it. He lost the speech on the way from Baltimore. He lost the speech and there was a panic. But I mean, that's a speech for all the ages. And I hope you stay tuned on Wednesday and watch, and that we've given you a we've made you excited like we are, that this is still going to be an amazing, amazing event. I've got to go now, but thank you, everybody. Thank you for attending, and I wish you all the very, very best.
Yeah, thank you all.
Mr. you have...
guys, we have a few questions. There is Basong.
Yes.
Mandy.
Go ahead.
Basong, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to share, as Paul mentioned, this is gives us a new spirit, good vibes that we are feeling on this year with Joe Biden, which his theme, it's actually that they announced it, it's America United. So we truly feel it, that this is going to be a turning point for us. Thank
We're
you.
very proud of America. We're very proud of America in spite of everything we've seen. We're very proud of it. And we're all looking forward to Wednesday.
Yes, we're waiting. And Basong, Mendy, you had raised your hand patiently. Go ahead.
Basong Mendy,
you're ahead.
I was so impressed. I was so emotional.
We cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
I say I'm Basong Mendy from Cameroon, residing in Abuja. I learned a lot today. I was very impressed. I call this a 5G meeting because I never knew of a virtual guide, and I got to know this today. Very impressive. I learned a lot. I must admit that, and I want to thank you all. I want to thank Mr. Paul, and to thank Ms. Brenda, and to thank Kevin Golden, and all the other panelists. We really made the day go well. Thank you very much, and I hope Wednesday we will be connected to learn more from you. I thank God because today we are having a new head in America. The person who always preaches for globalism, and together we can make the world a better place. I always remember the song of Michael Jackson, We Are the World. It inspires me a lot. And I believe we're coming out to that place. Together we'll make the world a better place for our children and our children's children. Thank you very, very much.
That's right. That's very true.
Yes, thank you.
It's a small world after all, right?
It is indeed. It's indeed.
But good thing we are together.
Okay.
Marikar,
yes, I have maybe a small observation. Has the new administration made any pronouncement on tourism as a sector of the new economy? I'm curious to know if I've heard anything.
Wow. That's a very good question.
I think it's an important juncture. If we're going to get back, part of the world frame, tourism has got to be a direction for all Americans and for all, all countries around the world who would like to visit us.
Definitely. But right now we're fighting a pandemic. That isn't over yet. We are trying to get everybody vaccinated. As President-elect Biden has said, his first 100 days is to have, so many people vaccinated. Right. So we have to deal with that first because
100 million.
America, assuming July or the end of the second quarter might be a start point. That's the reason I asked the question. Assuming that, then I have to accept that tourism is a major sector, has been, of our economy in years past. And therefore, I was hoping that the new administration would make a pronouncement on it or make some overture.
Yeah, we have to wait and see. There's so many things happening right now that they have many things in the cooking in the pot with the health problems. So we just have to wait. But we have a strong tourism, arm, Destination DC, who is also representing us in government. We have USTA, who is also a very strong vehicle, for driving tourism in the US.
Right.
May I also say something else?
Go ahead, Talib.
I think the determination of Biden's administration to lift the travel ban is a good start for this. Could build on that.
Yeah, lift the travel ban, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign.
It's a good start, yeah.
Yes, it's a good start. And he will also do the Paris climate change. He will take that out and reconsider.
That's right.
Which is
these are two things he mentioned specifically.
Yeah.
We'll do the first day.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having a secretary of tourism. Let's see where this all goes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Block on that. I don't think it's going to happen.
But guys, this was wonderful. I don't see anyone else raising a hand, and I wanted to really thank everyone for doing this today. This was a very inspiring session. We're going to play it over and over and over again on eTurbo News. You find it later on livestream.travel, and everyone who attended will get an email copy anyway. And it also includes the GoFundMe page Robin has been talking about. And Marika, you have been an inspiration, as I said yesterday when we did our short Sunday update.
As always, as always.
And Taleb, also thank you for coming in and
I'm sorry I'm late.
Support, not a problem at all. But I wanted to say again, thank you and aloha, mahalo, and we can do this again real soon. You guys stay safe, stay healthy.
Yeah.
But give Marika the last word.
Yeah, we can have more virtual tours if you want about Washington, about anything you want. We can do it. We are tourist guides, so we are here to serve. Okay, so we are ready for you at any time, 24/7. We're awake. We're ready to go.
Can I have the last smile so I can take a picture of all of us?
Yeah, can we have everybody come close to the camera? You know, we will have a nice photo, family photo.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3.
Family photo. Thank you to WTN. And
yes, thank you.
Forward, we hope for a better tomorrow. Okay, we will do this together. So congratulations to the president-elect and the first woman vice president into the office after 100 years. My goodness, it took that long, my Lord. 100 years. Finally, a woman comes in. Woo, woo.
About time, yes.
It's about time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, tour guides. And again, if there's any other tour guides from all over, and want to contact me about doing a virtual program, I am welcoming all, to really expand our series. So
yeah, and during the intersection, Robin and Marika started a virtual tour guide intersection. You find it on WTN.travel. You can join. It's free. Anyone who's a member, and if you're not a member, of course, you should become a member at WTN.travel. And we would love to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you again. Thank you, Jürgen. Thank you, Taleb.